Welcome, it's good to be back. So today I am hoping to photograph this building behind me. It's called St Aldhelm's Chapel, and we're on the Isle of Purbeck, or in the Isle of Purbeck, whichever it is, which is part of the Jurassic Coast in Dorset on the south coast of England. So I have these kind of pretensions to photograph this building during the night with the Milky Way in the background. We're back to Milky Way season. It's early August and we have some proper darkness again now. Now the weather sadly is not entirely behaving. The clouds are starting to look a lot more organised than was forecast to be. So beautiful as this place is, sadly we've got quite a lot of cloud building up, and I'm really not sure that we're going to have any clear sky tonight. Plan B is that we see if we can get ourselves a cracking sunset, because if that gap in the cloud there remains, and if these clouds above me at the moment stay here, and they haven't shown much sign of moving, to be honest, then we could get some really nice uplighting of these clouds as the sun hits the horizon. So we could just be in for a spectacular sunset along this line of coast. Well, we might be in luck. The sky has cleared quite a lot. There's definitely some very, very thin cloud about, so I don't think we're going to get a really clear Milky Way, but I think we'll get something, unless it clouds over again. But we've been quite lucky, really. I'm very low on battery on this recording device, having left the charge cable in the car, which is a bit daft, and dragged all the batteries here, but never mind. So I won't be able to record too much here. I might have to catch up on some of the stuff when we get to back to the office, study, studio, whatever we want to call it. Meantime, had a really nice sunset here actually, and got some nice shots of the building here before the sunset completely disappeared. So at least we've got something there, and we may get a little bit more. A couple of hours at least now to wait until we get a reasonable level of darkness. In the meantime, I've just been using the PhotoPills application and the night, what's it called? And using the night AR mode just to get a bit of a look of exactly where the Milky Way is going to be in relation to it later on this evening or tonight. This is future Nigel here. So I'm back in the study. I thought I would give you a little bit of feedback. I couldn't really record any more on site because my phone battery was desperately low and I needed what was left for navigation purposes. But nevertheless, what happened? It was one of those frustrating nights. The classic kind of night that you have if you're a would-be astro photographer in the south of England, sadly, which is a combination of not massively clear skies normally anyway. Down where I was, I think we had the Bortle scale factor there is about 4. So you don't, even in the best of circumstances, get a really clear view of the bright view of the Milky Way and the Milky Way core, or galactic core. But the weather was frustrating because it kind of did just enough to keep me interested. And so it cleared a bit in the last kind of hour or two before sunset. And I then needed to wait until sometime after 11:30 really before we'd have proper darkness because of the moon. So we had about a 43%, I think it was, 43% crescent moon due to set at, I think it was 11:28. And so it kind of kept me interested enough, but sadly it kind of didn't hold. I decided between sunset and moonset that I would do a little time lapse of how the light changed during that sort of last hour before the moon set. And so I set everything up on my tripod. I set up some low-level constant lighting to light the left side of the chapel. And because the window was getting quite strong and it was getting quite chilly there, I was sort of gradually adding layers on, and in the end I decided I really needed to go and shelter around the other side of the building to get out of the wind. And so I went and did that. I thought, great, I'll leave that for the next hour while my time lapse gets on. Unfortunately, that meant that I was out of sight of the gear. And when I came back at 11:28 after the moon had set, unfortunately the lighting that I'd set up had been blown over and was facing down into the grass. In the meantime as well, just to add insult to injury, there's about a row of about sort of 4 or 5 farm cottages within a sort of stone's throw of where I was shooting this chapel, and about half an hour or so into the time lapse, one of the security lights in one of the buildings in this row came on incredibly brightly and lit the scene from a different angle instead. So the time lapse ended up really being a bit of a comedy of errors, really. For what it's worth, and just for a laugh, I will show you exactly how that went. An hour's worth of shivering in a howling gale, not quite knowing what was going on, resulted in this few seconds of abortive time lapse. Enjoy it for what it is. Okay, so after that I kind of had a decision to make. Do I stay in hope that the clouds might clear somewhat? Now, I did manage to take one still of the chapel and the night sky before I set the time lapse off, and that was really just to test my settings for the time lapse, and that's probably as good a night shot as I got all evening, and that's not great. And part of the reason was that the wind had got up really high. It was just a massive gale blowing up, and so nothing really was going to, that was anything remotely like a long exposure was going to be sharp at all. And so by the time I got to about 11:30, 11:40, I really decided that I had to just call it a night and give up and come back another day. So I packed up. I think part of the reason that the wind was particularly bad in terms of its effect on the camera gear that night was that I had set the move, shoot, move tracker up with its polar alignment while I still had some clear sky to see Polaris, and decided to leave the tripod in that state and try to shoot my time lapse with the camera on the on top of the move shoot move tracker and all of its associated paraphernalia. So I had my my new leveling base, the Neewer leveling base. I then had the move shoot move wedge. I then had the actual move shoot move tracker device itself. Then on top of that I had the Allen Wallace Z mount, and on top of the Z mount I then had my Manfrotto ball head. And so all of that must have added about at least a foot to the height of the tripod, and that meant that just any movement at all in the tripod because of the wind was just causing this additional motion blur in the images that I was getting, and I really just didn't get anything that was usable. So there you go, yet another astro fail. And I think if you're going to take astro pictures on the south coast of England, that sort of stuff is going to happen. You know, I probably find that something like 1 in 4, 1 in 5 shoots, if I'm lucky, ends up being satisfactory, with fails being due to all kinds of circumstances. But you can't control the weather. You know, you can control the technical stuff, but you can't control the weather. I think what I could have done in that situation was recognise earlier that this was just not a night for the move shoot move tracker. I was never going to get any really long exposures. I could have cut everything down on the top of the tripod just to the bare minimum to get as secure secure a tripod stance as was possible. But if I'm honest, by the time I got to 2012, I was pretty cold, and I think I'd had enough of the howling gale. So I packed up, but I did get a couple of reasonable sunset shots, and I'll show those for you in a minute. So if you've managed to stay this long, thank you very much for listening to my terrible tale of woe. Despite everything that I've said, I really enjoyed being out there. It's just such a beautiful part of the country. The coastline there is exceptional. I had some wonderful chats with all sorts of people on the way who were just walking the coast path, and 1 or 2 of the people who lived in the local cottages. Just such great people actually, and lots of really interesting conversations. So that's part of what I really enjoy when I get out and about. So thank you for watching. If you've made it this far, enjoy the last couple of pictures or so, and I'll see you again next time. The next video, by the way, will be just a short video of how I went about setting up the move shoot move tracker. So if you're interested in that, and particularly how I set it up using the Allen Wallace Z mount, then look out for that video coming up soon. Thanks for watching, and bye for now.